what is up? So if you're new here, hello, my name is Milana. It's very nice to meet you. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like story times, if you like random DIYs, if you like me talking about things no one really cares about, and if you just like me. I like you, so if you like me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Today's story time title is a little bit sensitive, and before I begin, I don't want you guys to think that this is clickbait, because it is not clickbait. I would never, ever use these types of terms to get views. Whoever would do that is a very messed up person, and I promise you that this is not clickbait, this is the real thing, and this did happen. So, like I always say, grab your popcorn and let's go straight into the story time. Today I'm going to be talking about my two teachers, one who was abusive and one who was racist. Throughout my whole lifetime, I never had any problems with any of my teachers. I loved all of them, but these are the ones that have messed up my life a little bit and have traumatized me in some sort of way, because one was abusive and one was racist. I'm going to start off by talking about my abusive teacher, and this took place when I was in grade 2 or grade 3. I'm not too sure because this happened a long time ago, and this actually happened back when I lived in Russia. So for many of you guys that don't know this, or if you're new here, I was actually born in Russia and I lived there until I was 10 years old, and then my family and I immigrated to Canada. The one thing that you guys should keep in mind is that in Russia, education is dealt with a certain way, and honestly everywhere around the world education is treated different ways and taught different ways, and some things are normal in one country, whereas in another country it's like completely like, whoa, I can't believe that happened. In Russia, especially from the town that I was from, it was a very small town. There it was basically accepted that whenever a parent would bring in their child to school, the teacher would take over the parenting, if that makes any sense. Yeah, so parents would give this huge amount of trust to the teachers, and what that meant, they could honestly physically beat them, they could yell at them, they could do whatever they want to as long as they deserved it. Even my grandma told me, and my parents have told me, that it was normal for a teacher to hit them with a ruler if their posture wasn't perfect. If they would talk too much, they would get hit on the lips. Like, everything was very messed up. But when I went to school, it wasn't that bad, but I mean, I'm still telling the story, so obviously something happened. So it was normal to kind of hit a child, yell at a child. It was completely normal in Russia at that time. Another thing, because I lived in a small town, everyone knew everyone. And even up to this day, I know this is true, that in Russia, if you are wealthy, you could honestly pay your way out of school, you could buy a diploma, you could buy a degree, you could honestly be, like, you could buy anything as long as you have money. So yeah, because my teacher knew that I came from a somewhat wealthy kind of family, she expected my parents to, you know, give her some money so I would succeed in my education and would get treated 10 times better than everyone else in my class. So yeah, my parents weren't completely against that whole idea, and they didn't want to pay the teacher because they wanted me to work for my grades, they wanted me to succeed by myself, and they wanted me to not feel like I'm better than everyone else just because my parents, my daddy and my mommy, have paid for my education. You know what I mean? Grade 1 to grade 3 I had the same teacher, and she was the one who didn't get paid for my parents, so I was treated like complete shit. So the first incident that I remember by heart was when it was International Women's Day. Everyone brought flowers to the teacher because it's like a norm to do that, and it was me and my mom, and we lined up to go into the classroom to hand her the flowers. And it was kind of like a parent-teacher conference where like you would come in, give her the flowers, and quickly talk about like you know, how's the child doing, is there anything we should be concerned about, blah 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 blah. So it was kind of like a quick parent-teacher conference, and at the same time like giving her flowers and saying Happy Women's Day. Every time a child would hand her the flowers, she would give them a hug, talk to the parents, and then to the next one. Once it was my turn, my mom and I came up to her and I gave her the flowers and I went in for a hug. You know what she does, you guys? She literally takes her two hands and pushes me away. Here I am, a grade 2, you know, not knowing what's going on, because I didn't know that my parents didn't pay. Like I wasn't aware of everything that was going on, and I went in for a hug and I get pushed away, and here I am, everyone's laughing at me, and she says, next, and my mom was like, well, we wanted to ask you like how she's doing. She's like, oh, she's doing fine, next. That was the moment where my mom and I kind of like, well, I was still young, I didn't know what was going on, but my mom kind of got the hint of what is going on. And that's where it all began. But that was not the abuse, you guys. That's not the abuse. If that's what you think the abuse was, no, it wasn't. Another thing that the teacher would do, I remember there was this one time we had to write our own poems and present them randomly in class. And every time I would raise my hand, she would never choose me, and I was so upset because like I worked very hard on this one poem and she didn't choose me. So that was another incident that proves that she hated me. So this is where the abuse came in. So my friend, her name was Vika, and we were sitting together, and the way I knew Vika, like she also came from a somewhat wealthy family, and her parents also did not pay the teacher. Also raised her the way my parents did, and they didn't want to pay for her grades. And so she hated both of us. It's not like she only hated me. She hated every single student that didn't pay her. Basically, me and Vika, we were really good friends. Like we would even go to dance classes together. So we were like best friends, and we were sitting together one day and we were talking, I guess, or interrupting class. I mean, we were in grade 2. You know what I mean? Like kids talk. Basically, as me and Vika were talking, the teacher stopped the class and she's like, she came up to us and she's like, what do you girls find so funny? We're just sitting there looking up at her like terrified of what she's gonna do next. Because I wasn't the one talking, I was really the one who was just listening, and Vika did all the talking. So what she did, she grabbed Vika by her hand and she pulled her to the front of the class, and she started yelling at her saying, what do you find so funny? Tell the whole class. We would love to know what is it that's so funny, that is more important than this class, and why you're interrupting us, blah, blah, blah. She started yelling at her, literally yelling, and Vika started to cry. And that made her even more mad. The fact that Vika started to cry, well, I mean, if a child is getting yelled at, obviously they're gonna cry. While Vika is standing there crying her eyes out, the teacher starts yelling at her even more, saying, why are you crying? It's not like I did anything to make you cry. She's like, stop crying or I'll give you an excuse to start crying. Which is like, what? Like, Russians always say that. They say, don't cry unless you gotten beaten. It's like this whole saying. So the next thing that she did was absolutely crazy. She grabbed Vika by her hair, gripped it like this, and she took her head, she led her to the blackboard, and she literally, imagine this is the blackboard, this is Vika's head, this is her hand, and she started hitting her head against the blackboard. And everyone is just sitting there in shock. I was in complete shock. I was surprised she didn't do this to me. I think she was too afraid of my parents, but yeah. She did that. Vika started crying. She kicked her out of the class. She said, come back in once you are calm and once you could just not disrupt your class anymore. I don't know about you guys, but if any teacher did this in Canada, they would probably be in jail for a year for abusing a child, a grade 2 child. So that was very messed up, and I will forever remember that, and I'm really happy that she wasn't abusive towards me. But I think she was just afraid of my parents, that she definitely abused the child. I honestly think Vika got a concussion at that point, and she ended up having like a bruise and like a bump on her head for a week, and I remember that very well. I guess the teacher just told the parents that she was misbehaving and she earned what she got. And in Russia, back then, it was normal. So yeah, that was actually one of the reasons my parents immigrated to Canada, is because that's like, these things are normal. Like, your child could get killed, but it would be like, he deserved it, you know, he was or she was misbehaving and she deserved it. Or your child deserves a concussion from me because she was misbehaving, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was my abusive teacher story, and now I'm gonna go into my racist slash just discriminating teacher. And funny fact, this actually happened here in Canada, and this happened right after we immigrated, and yeah, so let's go straight into this story. Yeah, what happened was, I was put into grade 4 when I got here, And it was our first day in class, and you know, we were meeting everyone, like I was meeting new people, and obviously they knew that English was not my first language, and they knew that I could barely speak any English because, I mean, it was my first day in Canadian school and I didn't know anything or anyone, and it was just very scary. The second day of school, my teacher, my homeroom teacher, pulled me to the side with another girl. We were both fresh off the boat. We didn't know anything about English or anything about grammar or like anything. We're like, hi, how are you? You know what I mean? So yeah, she pulled me to the side with my friend and I. And she also had this guy who would translate everything she would say to us, pretty much. Long story short, this is what she said. We're too stupid for her, and people like us should not be in her class. Now, mind you, this is grade 4. And what she ended up doing is switching us over to another homeroom class. It's not like her homeroom was any more advanced than the homeroom that she sent us to, because there were still normal kids in there. Me and my friend were perfectly fine. We knew what we were doing. We didn't have any issues with math. The only thing we were struggling with was English, and that's what teachers are there for. And a very well-known fact that here in Canada, a lot of people are immigrants. I mean, I think it's the most immigrated country in the world. So teachers are not usually like this. I feel like I just didn't get lucky, because in Canada, every single teacher that I had after that one were so nice. They would walk you through everything, and I feel like Canada has one of the best education systems out there. And to be honest, it's not like that was the main reason. Like, yeah, I felt discriminated against, but another reason was she really messed up my confidence. Up until high school, ever since, you know, this teacher told me I'm too slow and I'm too dumb and I'm not good enough for her because my English is not that strong. Ever since that day, I would always be so insecure and very low confidence whenever it came to my English. And yeah, I don't know if you want to call that racism, but that was definitely discrimination, because you cannot do that. The school system put a child into your classroom. Your responsibility is to teach them. That's it. You can't do anything about it, but I guess she did, and that's that. So yeah, those were my 2 stories about my crazy psycho teachers that I had to deal with. Comment down below letting me know if you guys had any horrible teachers and what they did. I would love to hear those stories just so I don't feel alone. I'm gonna go now. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Mwah.